In a world seemingly devoid of hepatitis, two lovers are devoted to getting to know each other and sharing their lives through saliva. Get your school supplies, scissors, and a bib ready because it's time to delve into the moist world of Nazo no Kanojo Akusu. One morning like any other, young Tsubaki wakes up after having a super metaphorical sex dream, but being a teenager, he doesn't think much of it and heads off to school. There, he meets a strange new transfer student named Makoto Urabe. Makoto sits next to him and immediately demonstrates some very strange attitudes, as during recess, she spends her time sleeping and does not interact with her other classmates, who soon decide to isolate her, and she is instantly labeled as a freak. In the middle of class, the girl also begins to have a strange outburst of laughter which makes all her classmates uncomfortable. When Akira Tsubaki wakes Urabe up at the end of the school day, she finds her face charming, and for some reason, remembering her strange dream, she ends up tasting some of the young girl's saliva, which was left on the table. Tsubaki realizes the strangeness of the situation and tries to return to his normal life, without telling anyone about what happened. After having a dream where he and Urabe dance on top of a strange city, our protagonist can't seem to get his partner out of his head. Days go by, everything goes back to normal, and Tsubaki suddenly falls down with a fever, which does not go unnoticed by Urabe, who suspects what might be going on. Urabe goes to Tsubaki's house with the excuse of handing in her homework, but when they're together, the young girl explains to him what is happening to her. Urabe makes Tsubaki confess that he drank her saliva, and the young man admits it, so she gives him more of her slime, which cures his fever, explaining that his symptoms were the result of withdrawal from not receiving more slime. The two young people become friends, and so Urabe begins to meet with Tsubaki every day to give him more of her slime, because if he does not consume some of her saliva every day, he will get sick again. As Tsubaki begins to fall in love with Urabe, he decides to confess to her after a few days. When Urabe asks him to profess his love in a way that only he can do, Tsubaki first tries to kiss her, but she tells him that this is not original, because what our heroes show him by tearing up a picture he had in his wallet of his high school sweetheart. After such a show of love, Urabe begins to salivate excessively and explains that this happens when he is happy. Urabe asks Tsubaki if he is a virgin, and embarrassed, our prota tells him that he is. After explaining that the reason he was laughing in class was because a voice told him that Tsubaki would be the first person he would have sex with, Urabe agrees to be his girlfriend. Despite being sweethearts, the progress of Tsubaki and Urabe's relationship is nil. The young man has become obsessed with his new girlfriend, but she, except for the willingness to share her outing, shows no other interest in him. Tsubaki decides to ask his friend, Kohei Ueno, what he could do to advance his relationship with Urabe, though none of his advice seems to work with her. First he tries to walk holding her hand, but she refuses. Then, he tries to make conversation, asking her about her hobbies, and she reveals that she is fond of scissors, revealing to him that she always carries a pair of scissors in her underwear, and when he apologizes for seeing her, she tells him that it doesn't matter if he sees her in her underwear. That night, Tsubaki has another dream about Urabe, in the same city, only this time, she is in her underwear with her scissors, but wakes up without understanding much of what she dreamt. The next day, the young woman changes the route the two always walk, and he offers her a candy, but Tsubaki does not accept it, so she puts it in her mouth. The two separate, and he wonders if she is offended that she did not receive the candy, but before leaving, she takes the candy out of her mouth and gives it to him. Tsubaki tries to hug Urabe, but she reacts violently and attacks him with the scissors, warning him never to hug her again without her permission. Another day passes, and Urabe refuses an invitation to the movies from her boyfriend, so Tsubaki finally breaks down and asks him if they really have a relationship or not. Urabe takes Tsubaki to an abandoned house. He tells Tsubaki to close her eyes and then undresses, and then feeds Tsubaki his drool, explaining that their drool is a special bond that lets them know how they feel. Tasting Urabe's saliva, Tsubaki feels arousal, and she reveals to him that it is the same thing she feels, and he feels it by tasting her saliva, because she will never be able to hide her feelings for him. After the demonstration, she explains that her excitement was due to the fear of Tsubaki opening her eyes and seeing her naked, and when he asks her what would have happened if she opened her eyes, she attacks him again with her scissors. The next day, after Tsubaki has a strange dream involving Urabe. As the two walk to school, Urabe asks him if something is wrong, and he says no, but she sticks her finger in his mouth and drinks Tsubaki's saliva, so he can remember the dream he had in vivid detail. Tsubaki sees Kohei kissing Ayuko Oka, to whom Kohei explains that she is his girlfriend, whom he has been secretly dating for some time. When Tsubaki asks him why he was telling her that he did not have a girlfriend, Kohei replies that he is embarrassed, so he prefers to keep the relationship a secret. Tsubaki withdraws, but not without noticing Ayuko's lips that are moist from Kohei's saliva, and it occurs to her that a kiss is not a bad way to exchange saliva. When Tsubaki expresses her desire to kiss Urabe, she gives him a vial of her drool, telling him to drink it before going to bed. He also tells her that he understands that the reason he wants the kiss is because he saw his friend with his girlfriend and became jealous of their relationship. That night, Tsubaki drinks Urabe's saliva. This series is gross, and has a dream in which he is accidentally kissed by Urabe, feeling disappointed that she doesn't put her feelings into it. The next day, Urabe, understanding her boyfriend's needs, offers to give him his first kiss, but Tsubaki realizes that they should only kiss when they come to understand each other's feelings. Later, at school, another boy in Tsubaki's class, Ogata, confesses to Urabe and asks her to go out with him. Urabe tells this to Tsubaki, who jealously decides to tell Ogata to take a step back, since she is his girlfriend, but the young woman tells him that she has decided to give him an answer the next day, forbidding Tsubaki to interfere. That night, a worried Tsubaki cannot sleep, fearful of what his girlfriend may choose, and also offended that he has to. After all, he is her boyfriend and the choice has already been made. Tsubaki gets nervous, as Ogata is not a bad choice, as he is a good sportsman and popular with the schoolgirls. The next day, Tsubaki hasn't slept all night and Urabe, who is behaving stranger than usual, feeds Ogata some of his spit and, hearing that he doesn't feel any different, rejects him. After doing the same with Tsubaki, which gives him a nosebleed, Urabe explains to him that the excitement and nerves she feels at that moment are the same she has, since for the sake of not having doubts, she decided not to wear underwear that day. Urabe explains to her how her reaction to his drool is proof that he is the only one she shares this bond with and not just anyone, because if she had a bond with Ogata, he would have felt the same way too. Urabe gives Tsubaki her panties as a gift and the two walk home together holding hands. The male students are in a state of complete excitement, because soon the physical education season will start, and they will be able to see the female students with their gym uniforms, and although it had not crossed his mind, Tsubaki now realizes that he will be able to see Urabe in gym uniform and that excites him. Ayuko decides to have lunch together with Urabe, and to everyone's surprise, the young girl accepts and the two share lunch. As they return home, Tsubaki comments to Urabe that it makes him very happy that she gets a friend, since except for him, she hasn't interacted much with her other classmates. Urabe makes it clear to him that she is not interested in making friends and says goodbye, but not before giving him his daily dose of saliva, not realizing that they are being watched from afar. As Urabe gets a scratch the next day during physical education, Ayuko takes her to the infirmary to get it fixed. Ayuko, who works in the infirmary, shares a drink with Urabe and tells her that she would like to be her friend, but the young girl coldly rejects her. Ayuko accepts the refusal, but tells him that she won't stop trying, but before she leaves, she discovers that she suddenly has the same leg injury as Urabe. Urabe suspects that the exchange of saliva when they both took the bottle is responsible for the situation and decides to cut his hand. With his hand cut, he makes Ayuko drink from his saliva and is surprised when the wound on his hand manifests itself on Ayuko's hand. In this way, they deduce that Urabe's slime can also transfer injuries, proving that Ayuko has a similar connection to Tsubaki. Ayuko confesses that she is aware of her relationship with Tsubaki, and mentions how she became fascinated by Urabe after seeing her with Tsubaki. She also confesses that she has feelings for Tsubaki, but going out with her friend would cause a problem, so she decides to approach the young man through Urabe and repeats her offer to be his friend, but Urabe tells her that their bond is only between her and Tsubaki, so she again rejects his offer to become friends. At the end of the day, Urabe gives some of his saliva to Tsubaki, who experiences his girlfriend's wounds before they each go home. The next day, Ayuko feeds some of his slime to Urabe and asks him what it tastes like. She replies that the taste of his saliva is sweet, so Ayuko deduces that he has not yet kissed Tsubaki because if he had, he would have recognized the taste of sweetness. Afterwards, Urabe and Ayuko begin a daily routine of having lunch together. It is beach season and Urabe, along with his faithful scissors, goes swimming in the ocean in his bathing suit. At school, Boys and girls do separate physical activities. While the girls practice swimming, the boys play soccer. However, the boys are more interested in spying on the girls than in playing, so they are constantly throwing the ball out of the field and spying on the girls with the excuse of retrieving it. However, the only one who is not able to carry out that task is Tsubaki, who misses the sight of Arabe in a bathing suit. As they walk home, Tsubaki can't help but smell the scent emanating from Arabe's skin and gets too close, to the point that she threatens him with her scissors. However, it starts to rain and the two take cover under a tree. There, Arabe gives Tsubaki permission to taste her sweat, because apparently all this girl's fluids do something, and our hero sees an image of her in a bathing suit in the ocean. When summer vacation arrives, and although they can no longer see each other at school, the two continue their tradition of exchanging saliva. Tsubaki, however, wants to invite Arabe to do something, since the only connection they have is when she arrives, shares saliva and leaves without saying anything. Thus, and determined, Tsubaki manages to work up the courage to ask Arabe for a date on the beach. She accepts, but tells him that it can be in a week's time, since she is going to visit her father, so the young man accepts excitedly. During that week, Tsubaki does not seem to experience withdrawal symptoms, and it is not very clear to us why, if the saliva lasts a week or what, but the series does not give us an answer to that question, so let's move on to the next scene. A week passes and Tsubaki and a tanned Arabe head to the beach where they eat yakisoba and swim in the sea. However, the young woman is wearing a scarf that covers her bikini bottom, and Tsubaki becomes a bit frustrated at not being able to see the swimsuit in all its glory. Arabe takes off the scarf for him, revealing that she tanned with her scissors on, leaving the mark on her skin. Seeing the tan line from Makoto's scissors, Tsubaki gets a nosebleed, something Arabe later experiences when he tastes Tsubaki's drool on the way home. He confesses to her the reason for his excitement, and she tells him that she will show him the tan line again next year when they visit the beach again. While shopping for clothes, Tsubaki runs into Ayuko, who talks to her about tooting her boyfriend, Kohei. Ayuko deduces that Arabe and Tsubaki do not to each other through an exchange of drool with Tsubaki because that now seems to be the new normal. She then approaches Arabe in a similar manner and talks to her about first names briefly before Arabe excuses himself. In the park, Tsubaki takes advantage of a sleeping Arabe by whispering her first name Makoto to her. Tsubaki has another strange dream again and blurts out that he wants a picture of Arabe when they go to school. Arabe agrees, but when Tsubaki asks her to smile, she refuses, as that would be a forced photo and not a faithful one, so in the end she refuses to take the photo. Later, Tsubaki waits for Arabe on a bridge and his former love, Aika Hayakawa, the young woman whose photo he snapped at the beginning of this story, invites him for coffee. After declining the invitation, Tsubaki finds Arabe hiding at one end of the bridge and says he didn't want to interrupt the conversation. As they return, Arabe and Tsubaki talk about Tsubaki's crush, and he tells her that it never occurred to him to accept the invitation as it would make her angry. Having no other way to express himself, Arabe gives Tsubaki a drink of his saliva, and the young man bursts into tears. She explains to him that what she feels is not anger, but a deep sadness, and that if he had left with Aika, she would be heartbroken. After the exchange of drool, the two understand each other's feelings before Tsubaki takes out his camera again to try to take a picture of Arabe, who lets him take a picture with his tongue hanging out. While it's not a smile, Tsubaki knows it's the most he'll get out of him and decides to treasure the photo, putting it in his wallet. After showing an impressive display on the track, Arabe is asked to participate in a relay race for the sports festival, although she rejects the idea of joining the track team or any club that involves activities outside of school hours. As they return home, Arabe tells Tsubaki about the situation, and although he encourages her to join the team, she tells him that she has made up her mind, and will not do so since it means she would not be able to walk home with Tsubaki. This moves our hero, who tries to hug her, to no avail. The next day, Ayuko annoys Arabe, telling him that the reason she doesn't want to run is because of Tsubaki, which makes the young girl the owner of her legs, and our heroine, offended, sets out to train. Tsubaki watches her train and is overjoyed to see his girlfriend join the food group, but that night he realizes that the more popular Arabe becomes, the less and less time the two of them will spend together. When the students change out of their winter uniforms, Tsubaki catches a cold. After hearing from Ayuko about how she wore a bikini to help Kohei get over a cold, Arabe secretly puts on a bikini under his coat and gives Tsubaki some of his saliva, which helps him recover. On the day of the sports festival, Urabe talks to Ayuko and the two compare notes, but Ayuko discovers that Urabe didn't show her boyfriend the swimsuit because the young girl, beyond her behavior, is actually very shy. When the competitions begin, Urabe manages to help his team win the relay race. Tsubaki is very happy to see how the young girl is surrounded by admirers, and the leader of the athletic club invites her again to be part of the group, and Urabe thinks seriously about it. Later, on the way home, a proud Tsubaki suggests to Urabe to join the track and field team. Urabe tells him that she knows he is lying, because deep down he does not want to be separated from her, and she understands. Urabe once again rejects the offer to join the track and field team, as she prefers to spend time with him, declaring him the owner of her legs. Tsubaki has a dream in which he gets to squeeze Urabe's breast and can't get the feeling out of his head. Our hero decides to take a walk to clear his head and goes for a walk, but everything reminds him of his girlfriend's breasts. Taking a walk, he decides to go in the direction Urabe usually takes after school and arrives at an apartment block. Just then, Urabe appears, having finished the compares for dinner, and tells him that his apartment is in the building. Urabe invites Tsubaki to his apartment for a drink. The two young men are alone, as the young woman's parents have gone out, so his imagination starts to get the better of him. After catching Makoto when she stumbles after being startled by lightning, Tsubaki almost reaches for his chest, but Urabe stops him. After getting Tsubaki to tell him about her dream, she feeds him some slime while clutching her own chest, giving him a stronger feeling. She then allows Tsubaki the opportunity to touch them by himself, which causes Tsubaki to become more aggressive and kisses his ears until he realizes that Urabe is crying and leaves. Urabe is left crying, and Tsubaki runs away in the rain in horror at what he has just done, fearful that she will never forgive him. The next day, after Urabe gets some advice from Ayuko about the new experiences he is feeling, Tsubaki asks Urabe to slap him by way of apology. Afterwards, Urabe explains that she is not angry, but that she did not understand the sensation she gets when her ear is touched, which is apparently one of her sensitive spots. The two young people make friends, and she apologetically drinks Tsubaki's saliva, sharing the pain of the slap. The young woman withdraws, while Tsubaki is left feeling the emotions she feels when her ear is touched. Noticing that Urabe has a serious case of bedhead, Ayuko fixes her up with a new hairstyle. Urabe soon gets a lot of attention for her new hairstyle, which makes Tsubaki a little jealous. When they go home, Tsubaki convinces Urabe to return to her old hairstyle and spoils her hair at her request. When they continue their trip, she confesses to our protagonist that she really enjoys having him spoil her hair. The next day, Ayuko, who wants to do her hair again, is frustrated when Urabe refuses, and accuses Tsubaki of possessiveness, as the young man does not want to share his beauty with the rest of the classmates. As Ayuko scolds her, Urabe shows her the feeling of having her hair disheveled, which she comes to enjoy. On the way home, Ayuko asks her boyfriend to tousle her hair, and he obeys even though he doesn't understand anything, and indeed, the young woman enjoys the experience. Meanwhile, Tsubaki is frustrated when one of the male students starts selling pictures of Urabe's alternative hairstyle, and learns of the existence of an idol named Momoko Imai who bears a strong resemblance to Urabe. After saying goodbye, Tsubaki soon impulsively goes to the bookstore and buys Momoko's photo album after realizing that she does indeed look like his girlfriend. However, while he is shopping, he crosses paths with Kohei, who sees him buying the magazine. The young man comes home and enjoys looking through the magazine. Urabe's photos are a hit, and Ayuko asks her boyfriend if he bought any, and he says no, and when she asks him if Tsubaki bought a photo, he says no, but that he did find it in the bookstore, buying Momoko's book. When Urabe finds out from Ayuko, who found out from Kohei, she asks her boyfriend to show her the book, to corroborate if they really look alike. Tsubaki brings her the book, and shows her the photos. She can't help but see a resemblance and asks him which is his favorite photo. Tsubaki shows him a picture where Momoko is smiling, and Urabe unsheathes his scissors and destroys the magazine. As he reiterates, Urabe reminds our hero that she is his girlfriend, and he shouldn't go around looking at that kind of magazine. Tsubaki stands in the square with the destroyed magazine and, smiling, realizes that the two of them are a bit possessive. Tsubaki meets Aika, the girl he was in love with. The two go to talk in a square, where Aika confesses to our protagonist that she always knew he was in love with her, but never did anything about it. Tsubaki does not mention Urabe when Aika asks him if he is in a relationship, so he replies that he is single. Aika tells him that she recently broke up with her boyfriend. To be more precise, he broke up with her, which caused her to make extreme decisions such as cutting her hair. Tsubaki notices that while Aika cries, a little saliva comes out of her mouth, and since it seems that's what he likes, she can't help but wonder what the saliva of someone who won't be Urabe will taste like. Aika realizes she offers her saliva to our hero, and he accepts it, only to regret it at the last moment for fear that this action will ruin what he has with Urabe. Aika deduces that Tsubaki has a girlfriend and asks him for her name, to which our prota gives it to him, in what is the fourth worst mistake so far that day. Aika returns home and realizes that being rejected by Tsubaki makes her love him more. The next day, Aika decides to approach Urabe, inviting her to her school's cultural festival on Sunday with the news that Tsubaki might be there. Urabe, who immediately recognizes her and half reads her intentions, tries not to give her much conversation, but is intrigued by the invitation. That same night, Aika calls Tsubaki with a fake wound on her face, telling her that her ex-boyfriend hit her and threatened to hurt her again at the festival, manipulating Tsubaki into going to the festival with her and pretending to be her boyfriend. Urabe asks Tsubaki what his plans are for Sunday, the day of the festival, and he lies, but she suspects something, because Aika's plan is not a great plan. The other one doesn't realize it because he has a drooling brain, but Urabe realized it. Tsubaki tries to make up an alibi in front of Urabe, but soon learns the truth from Ayuko. When Tsubaki attends the festival on Sunday, Aika shows up in her old high school uniform. Tsubaki is not very comfortable with Aika clinging to his arm, and asks her to take some distance, but the young woman tells him that she is doing so because she is afraid of his ex. While Ayuko goes to the festival with Kohei, she sees Tsubaki with Aika and decides to follow them. Tsubaki and Aika sneak inside her old classroom, and Aika tries to make the young man remember everything he felt for her, and asks to be together, promising that if he accepts her, she will grow her hair back and everything will be as they remember it. Thus, Aika puts her finger in her mouth and offers her saliva to Tsubaki. Ayuko, who observes everything, tries to take a picture to have proof of Tsubaki's infidelity. Urabe appears in a robot box, just as Tsubaki refuses to drink Aika's saliva, but instead of getting angry, he suggests that they do a blind test of each other's drool to see which Tsubaki prefers. Tsubaki gets an instant nosebleed from Urabe's drool due to the fact that she was naked inside her disguise. Aika undresses and tries to give Tsubaki her drool, but stops when she starts crying, making it clear that her advances on Tsubaki were simply an attempt to get over the loss of her boyfriend, who had feelings for someone else even when he was dating her. Urabe tastes some of Aika's slime, sensing that she has long had unrequited love, but assuring her that she will find the right person someday. At that moment, Tsubaki removes her blindfold and sees the girls naked, prompting slaps from both of them. As Tsubaki and Urabe leave together, she tells him that her eventual kiss with him will be her first, eliciting a smile as she tastes his drool. Urabe is still intimidated by the idea that Tsubaki has seen her naked, and it doesn't help that Ayuko has taken a photograph of her. The two young women fight over the photograph, and Urabe finally destroys it with her scissors, which instead of scaring Ayuko, excites her even more. Since Tsubaki is a bit shy around Urabe after seeing her naked, she asks him to taste her slime to experience how nervous he is. The next day, when Urabe uses his scissors against Tsubaki for trying to hug her, he is surprised to see that he has made a small cut on her forehead. When Urabe takes Tsubaki home to have the wound treated, he notices that his scissors have become less accurate, which he believes is caused by a strange dream he had after tasting Tsubaki's slime. When Urabe gives Tsubaki more of his slime, he begins to imagine Urabe naked and ends up hitting his head while trying to avoid hugging Urabe on impulse. After listening to her reasoning, Urabe decides to hug Tsubaki willingly, which in turn brings back the scissor technique. The next day, as Ryuko Sawano, one of her classmates, offers to replace Tsubaki's gauze, Tsubaki opts to keep it, as it was the gauze given to her by Urabe. Later that day, Urabe again initiates a hug. While out shopping, Urabe runs into Tsubaki's sister Yuko, who takes her to a coffee shop, where she tells her about old loves and asks if she has a boyfriend. Yuko tells him that she had a boyfriend during high school, a young man who was also obsessed with people who sleep and leave saliva, so I assume it must be a local thing, and that morning, when her brother saw her drooling, he asked her the same thing. I can't think of anything funny to say, so let's move on, and that question brought back memories. When Urabe asks her what happened to that boyfriend, She mentions that she promised her late mother that she would take care of Tsubaki until he finishes his studies, so she has no time for romance. Tsubaki's family goes to pay their respects at his mother's grave, and when Tsubaki asks him what he talked to his mother about, his sister tells him that she promised to continue taking care of him like a mother until he finishes college and can fend for himself. When his family asks our protagonist what he said to her, he does not answer, but admits that he told her about Urabe. A few days later, Urabe asks Tsubaki to go to his mother's grave next Sunday and pay his respects. Urabe meets Tsubaki and is surprised to see her very formally dressed. After paying his respects and talking about Tsubaki's mother, Urabe wants to feel Tsubaki's memories of his mother, and they decide to exchange jewels simultaneously while Urabe touches the tombstone. Urabe and Tsubaki end up shedding tears and feel that their bond has deepened as they continue walking around talking and laughing. This way, we end this strange series. If you like this summary, don't forget to leave your opinions in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, there's still time to do so. And if you have a recommendation, also leave it in the comments. Let's see if we find something even weirder. But for now, see you in the next summary.